How's the weather in Texas?
We're a little cold, windy and cold.
You wouldn't believe the crazy shit I found in Texas last night. I mean, you probably would. Probably because you've seen it before many times, but normal people would not believe what I found in Texas last night.
Oh, do tell.
It
I'm
looked
curious.
it honestly looked like a scene from Stranger Things. If you could see the astral on that property, it was straight out of Stranger Things. There
I
was a
can totally see that.
crevasse portal.
Oh
And
my
you know
god.
how big those crevasses can get? There
Yes,
was all kinds of scary shit coming out of it.
of course there
Even
was.
called him Merlin. I even called him Merlin. I was like, Merlin, we're gonna need you for this one. And he came in and he said something about what was down there. And I said, at least there isn't a Balrog. Like it could be
I bet y'all had a good laugh about that.
worse. We're like, there's grays, there's Lizzies, there's hybrids, there's I'm like, and a partridge in a pear tree. Like, what else? What else are we missing from here? You never know what you're gonna find in Texas.
Well, and I think that attests to well, we kind of live in the Wild West.
No,
Um,
no kidding. Real.
you know, I like to call us, the we're the down under of the United States. You never know what you're gonna find here, really.
Oh man. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. I think honestly, it seems like a CERN thing. I don't know why I feel like CERN was partially responsible for that weird fissure portal that we found, that crevasse.
They do mess with us a lot down here. Um,
Mhm.
we have a lot of different unique things in different parts of Texas. And I think that, like a lot of people don't know, but we have a nuclear plant in Texas. So um, there's a lot of, Texas is beautiful, but there's a lot of things, hinky things that can go on here for sure.
We got Bradley in the house. He says his two favorite people. We love you, Bradley.
Hi, Bradley.
Good morning to everyone. Nice to see you
Good
all.
morning.
Welcome, welcome. It's so nice to have Kat here. I'm so at peace and relaxed when Kat is here. I'm like, we can just shoot the shit, talk whatever we want,
Of course you can.
talk
Always.
about some crazy shit going down. We've all had upgrades recently, but we've also been having so many challenges too. It's like with every upgrade, we get a new challenge to go with it.
Well, and I think that's part of, like being multidimensional, and we're coming into a state in the world where things are going to be new for us, like
Yes.
new high vibrational energies, new ways that our bodies are going to be moving and forming and functioning. We actually have new chakras that are going to start to be opening and aligning the more that we kind of upgrade our bodies, because we're going from a carbon based form to a crystalline based form. So the more you do your shadow work and the more you heal, the more you can bring in that crystalline light into the body, and the more your body actually physically changes. And that's what I think is really cool about it, but it can be a little disconcerting at times.
Especially when you aren't quite sure what you're dealing with. Like some symptoms, like for example, pressure on the chest.
Yeah.
That for me, at first, I would freak out every time I had pressure on my chest because I'm like, oh my god, red flag, who's here? What's this? But now I found like high vibrational guides can also create that feeling of your heart being a little bit like jumpy.
Oh yes, for sure, for sure. Because they're light, and they come from such a high vibrational frequency that
Your heart's trying to
whenever
adjust to
whenever they get close enough to you to make that contact, you're like, whoa, oh my gosh, yeah. I had that a little bit the first time I had Steve come in, um, just because he's he's very high up in the Andromedans. I will just leave it at
I was
that.
going to
But
say, maybe we should start from the beginning because we do have about 15,000 new followers that have started.
Oh, yes, of course.
The past week. So there's a lot of new people around here. Welcome to all of you new people, by the way. Very happy to have you part of our tribe now.
Yes, we very much are.
Kat and I have been friends for about a year. We met because I've been talking about all this crazy stuff for a while, and she's like, oh my god, there's somebody that knows kind of like what I do about stuff. So we became fast friends. And upon seeing what Kat can do in Lost Soul Rescues, I was like, holy shit, you need to do SRT with us. So we brought her in, and she amazed all of us with her abilities. I mean, Kat's been doing SRT for a long time, although she was doing it on her own. She wasn't doing it as part of a crew or a team. So upon bringing her in, we were a bit like, holy shit, this is amazing. She's such a wonderful, powerful addition to our team, and she's helped us to grow and expand in new ways, especially with Merlin, who is one of her guides, as everybody knows who Merlin is. He needs no introduction. But Steve is her other guide, who is a galactic guide, who is Andromedan. And Steve has come in as well to assist us because Merlin is a very busy man.
Yes. Yes. Well, and, Merlin can do SRT. He doesn't mind it. But he more likes to work with the grid and work with the land and work with the magic, of inner earth and the magic of our gifts. Yeah. And so, he
call him in for the big stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No. I really feel like he's probably the one that taught me how to go for and just be able to pop in and out and, get what I needed to get done and in a safe way.
Yes.
Yeah.
In an exciting and interesting way. He's always so much fun to watch him work, isn't he? And even the guides stand around and watch Merlin work. They're like, wow.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, we'll kind of get off in our own little world and I'll, especially in the LSRs, and someone will be like, oh, Kat, are we ready for this?
What's Kat doing? That's the
yeah.
question.
What is she doing?
Watch Lost Soul Rescue. What is Kat doing? What is she up to? And you do light language in many different capacities, but you also do sign light language as well. And you're tuning frequencies and, making Lizzie's naked and the light snapping your fingers. That's amazing, the things she can do. So do you want to explain just a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I am the Rainbow Grid Keeper. So part of my soul's path is to basically help many souls, but also Mother Terra, restore her rainbow grid. So essentially, a little bit of history. When Tiamat and Mother Terra were, and I call Mother Terra is Gaia or Earth for anyone who doesn't know. I just call her Terra. That's what resonates with me. So, call her what resonates with you, please. But basically, many thousands of years ago, Tiamat was the twin sister of Mother Terra. And Tiamat was the water planet, and Terra was the clay planet, and they were both sacred planets. And so basically what happened is there was a war, and Tiamat ended up blowing up. And because of that, Mother Terra, what she did is she brought her rainbow grid out as far as she could to take in all of that water so that she could save as many souls that had died on the planet, but also that she could save the memories. And
yes, because water stores memory. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. All of the memories of Tiamat and the sacredness of the water and the water planet. Well, when she did that, that broke her in many different ways. And then we got trapped with all the crap that we have here, all the Lizzies and different intergalactic species. And we got caught in, the karmic cycle of reincarnation and having to come back. A lot of these souls do. So, I know you, Laura, we've been stuck here for a really long time. So basically part of my path is I astrally travel quite a lot, and I also do travel in person too, but I do a lot of grid work. And so the grid work that I do is more so to help Mother Terra be able to start to turn herself back online. So it's pretty unique. I deal a lot with timelines and, like layers. We like to call them layers.
Stuff, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very multidimensional.
We didn't understand the layers. This is how our work has grown and expanded over time, and why we're so grateful to Kat, because involving this work on her own, she has had many unique ways of kind of tackling certain things. And one of those things that she's able to do is to move through the layers. So, for those who don't really understand, earthbound spirits exist on this planet, have always existed here, right? So, but when you die, let's say you die in the 1800s, and now we're in modern times, right? 2025. So, what happens to somebody who died in the 1800s? Well, are they seeing the world evolve? Are they seeing cars driving around? Are they seeing planes in the sky? No, they're not. Most of them are still in the 1800s. They're stuck not only in the astral, but in a layer of the astral. So they're not moving through modern times. They're kind of stuck where they died. So when we go to an area, like let's say we clear out an old folk home, for example, somewhere that we would expect a lot of earthbounds to be, you will find, let's say, I don't know, 60 to 100 earthbounds wandering around there that are aware that they've died, or even aware that things aren't right. Like they've got kind of a slight awareness as to things aren't quite normal. But then as you move back, you might find people who were, if you go through the layers, you're going to start finding people who died in that old folk home in the 50s or something, or in the 80s. And then as you go back in time, you're going to find earthbounds who have died in the early 1900s, before it was even an old folk home. It might have been a hospital or something else. And then you're going to find earthbounds there. And then as you move back in time, you might find indigenous people. You might find settlers who died of cholera or something. You might find people who even died during the floods. We have found giants who drowned during the floods. We have found, what was it? We found woolly mammoths not too long ago that were stuck.
We sure did. Mm-hmm.
We even found the craziest thing. Somebody said, "What's the craziest thing you ever found?" And I looked at Aiden and I said, "It was a brontosaurus." He's like, "What? You found the brontosaurus?" And I mean, when you're working through the layers, and if it hasn't crossed over because of severe trauma, then yeah, we will even find dinosaurs if we go further back enough in the layers. And we weren't doing that before Kat joined us. We were only picking up the ones that are wandering around in this time. The ones that are kind of, like I said, the 60 to 100 people who are kind of aware, kind of not, but wandering around and kind of doing their thing. That was easy for us to cross over. But moving through the layers and pulling up all of these earthbounds, because it's very interesting the way that you do that. You push up from the bottom layer and bring everybody to modern times.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of what happens. I look for the very first time that something has ever happened. And so, that could be anywhere. More common in America, it's more like 1300s and above. But, like sometimes, like even like when we cleared Culloden, and all of that, those layers went very, very deep.
We were crossing over Celts. I remember seeing druids. We found druids at Culloden. And I'm like, druids? How are we finding druids at Culloden? Because they were in the layers.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I just go to that very lowest layer. And like I said, I clear, and then I just clear up from there. And it happens really fast. And so if I were to slow it down, we'd be in LSR for like 6 weeks trying to clear it. Be like, "Oh, hey, Kat, this 6 weeks later, I think you need to take a break, but."
We were to go through all the layers. And they're like, "How are you crossing over billions of souls?" Like when we did that one with the tsunami, we found 3.5 billion souls to cross over. And people are like, that is an astronomical number. Even to us, we were a bit like, holy shit, are we even able to? Like, is that legit? Like, we even said to the guides in disbelief, really? Are you sure? Did you count them all individually? which one of you was in so much trouble you had to count them? Like,
yeah.
So it does make you wonder, like, how we could have so many souls stuck in those layers. But the earth is complicated, and there's been a lot of trauma here, and trauma creates blockages, and blockages keep people stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And the same for her, the same for Mother Terra. She's a sentient being. She's living and breathing, not in the way that we do, in a completely different way, but she has a heart, and, she has chakras, and she has these divine centers that have been sabotaged for such a long time. And so, some of the stuff that we're going to experience in the next 5 to 8 years is she's going to start changing. There may be some floods and some tsunamis and, some dormant volcanoes that are going to come up, more earthquakes. And I just, it's can cause a lot of, fear and panic because she's changing. But I just want to let everybody know that this is what we're here for. This is what we came here for, is to help her make that change. And then especially, like us as Starseed veterans, we're also in the process of releasing all of our shadow and working on, everything that we need to work on so that whenever we're ready to go at the end of this life, we can go back home. We can go back to, our galactic places. And then the cool thing is we have so many other starseeds that are new because the vibration was able to get high enough within, the last 2 generations. Really, we have new starseeds from other planets that are here for their second, third, or even first life, just to help, to bring more light in, to draw more codes in, because our guides are amazing, but they're not boots on the ground. We're the boots on the ground. And so us being here,
they anchor through us. They need our help. They can't. A lot of people are like, well, why aren't the guides doing this? And then it's like, well, they actually need our help. They need to anchor through us to be able to affect the 3D frequency. So we need to be boots on the ground for them to be able to do the things we do. And I like the analogy that Dr. Palmer had, is he kind of considered us to be like military scouts. Like, we don't really go into the battle, but we kind of like find the locations that need to be hit by the good guys that need to come in, and we find the dark stuff and we call in the reinforcements.
Yeah. One of my favorite mantras that I say all the time is, my light incinerates all the darkness. And that's really kind of how it is, when we're working, is we go into a very dark place and we create light, and we create, just light in that area, and we brighten it up. And every time that we do that, we are bringing more light forward for Mother Terra to start to be able to take care of herself.
That's so beautiful. I have been using the Mackenzie motto recently because of Fergus, and it's "I shine, not burn."
That's a good one. I love that.
I like that, right? But it's funny because many of us, like Dolores Cannon, talked about having like a golden ticket to be here at this time, to be able to receive a front row seat during this shift. And now I've felt like I was in the front row for a long time, but now we're kind of surpassed that. We're on stage at this point.
And for someone like me who's been doing this, for a long time, kind of by myself, I'm like, oh shit, I'm on stage. Oh, hold on, let's do the techniques, where I'm not so worried about everybody else. We're all naked.
And Kat's been doing some really exceptional things, even on her own. Do you mind if I mention what you did in Hawaii?
Yeah, sure.
Do you mind telling them a little bit about that?
Yeah.
So I love that story. So please.
So I went to Hawaii 2 years ago in October. And we originally went for a wedding, and we stayed for a week and had a nice, fun vacation, but we were on Oahu the whole time. And my dad is super into history. And so one of the things that he wanted to do is he wanted to go to the Pearl Harbor Memorial and Museum and all of that.
Heavy space.
And yes, it is. And so before I really kind of, knew what I was doing in this sense, this was one of the biggest clearings I've ever done. But what I did, at least by myself, so we go to the memorial, and we're walking through all of, it's very set up. It's very thorough. If you're into history,
well, you're going through there, and you can feel,
it is. You can feel it. And so one of the things that I was called to do, I kept hearing like knocking from a ship. That's what I kept hearing. And then I would hear a guy say, "Hey, can you hear me?" And I was like, "What?" And of course, I'm still not fully expressing my gifts to everyone at this point. And so I'm like kind of gaslighting myself. I'm like, well, what am I hearing? What is this? And then all I hear is, "You need to take the boat tour." And I was like, okay, we'll take the boat tour. It's free. And so I go to the family and I'm like, hey, I want to take the boat tour. Let's go do it all as a family. And they're like, yeah, sure, let's go. And you take this little ferry over to where, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's the USS Lexington was the one that got hit and actually, fell into the water. And all of those soldiers on the ship died. And so they have a big memorial with everyone's name on the wall who has died. And it's just a good memorial. And so as soon as we got on that boat, I'm like shaking violently. And my fiance is like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I was like, I have something I need to do here. I just know in my heart I need to. And so he was like, okay. And so the tour lasts like 15, 20 minutes. You can walk up to the memorial, you can walk around and kind of look out, and you can look into the water, and they have some markers in the water where you can see where the ship is. Yeah. And so as soon as I get there, I step off of the ferry and we're walking up the little plank to get to the memorial, and I just start hearing cheering. And so I was like, okay, I have no idea what's going on. And so I called in all of my angels and guides and just whoever wanted to be with me, who was the highest of light. And I opened up a portal just to help all of these souls cross over. And I was doing it like name by name. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to be able to get this.
I was going to say, we lost like 3,000 people that day.
Yes. And so we are all, I'm just standing there trying to go off all the names. And I heard from what I now know was Merlin. I didn't realize that he was working with me, back then, but I just heard him go, just skim through all the names as fast as possible, and we got the rest. And I was like, okay, cool. So what I did is I just looked at the memorial and I skimmed through all of the names as fast as I could. And then I called on Mother Terra and I asked her, if there's any other souls that are being held and trapped here, please allow them, to come up through the grid and we'll help cross them over. And so at this point, like I'm holding on to the rail and I'm like violently shaking and I don't know what's going on. And then I just hear all of this cheering. And there was this one soldier that stayed behind. And so I closed my eyes and I was taking some deep breaths. And he just looks at me and he comes in, kind of gives me a little hug in the astral. And he was like, you have no idea what it means to me to be saved. I've been trapped here, and like he was one of the souls who actually knew. And he actually was, I knew him for a while in this life. And so it was one of those things, it was a piece of him that was stuck in the grid. And that's how he was able to kind of start to wake up all the other earthbounds in that area. And they were just crying for help. And so being able to go there and do that, that's what really kind of ignited my path. And then the day after, I spent the day in the ocean. And there's this really pretty like cove up on the north of Oahu. It's called Turtle Bay. And it's where you can see sea turtles. And so, in Hawaii, it's illegal to touch any turtles that are in the water or to, pick them up or anything like that. So I just asked, I asked Mother Terra, I was singing to her and singing into the water. And I just asked her, please send me a sign, that what we did, 2 days ago was just, complete and
real. Yeah.
And that you could hear it, you could feel it, that, like it actually happened. And I got this family of sea turtles that came up and they got about 6 inches from me. And it was a mom and 2 little babies. And the babies were, probably one of them was very tiny. It was probably like this big. Just maybe a couple years old. I don't know how big turtles grow over age. And then the other one looked like a little adolescent. And then it was just like a mama. And they all kind of, came up real close in front of me. And I was just standing in the water and I wanted to touch them so bad. And I was just sending them energy and love, through the water and just, very thankful for that situation. And then I got home And, it was just a big change in the water. But all over the world, you could just feel a big shift. And it was the water. And so, like, a lot of the water that we have here in the seas and several other places, it holds a genetic memory of Tiamat and the sacredness of her. And I think, or I don't think, I know what happened while I was in the water is I was able to tap into that and start to heal Tiamat because she knew what was happening, and she basically kind of gave into it. So she didn't have any karma. She kind of accepted it. And so that was, one of those things that I found very wholesome, was just being able to connect into the sacredness of her water and being able to clear some of, the trauma from what happened. And so that's part of what I do too. Anytime I'm in the ocean, I go and I code the ocean. It doesn't matter how, cold the water is. When we were in Salem, it was really cold, but I still got my feet in the water for a couple minutes and, or my hands in the water as well, and coded it. Because that's part of, what I do is I'm here to do a very unique thing. And there are tons of other grid workers on the earth right now. And we all do unique things to help, Mother Terra rise in our own way. So I would say, if you feel like grid work is something that resonates with you, I am really pushing myself out of the box, and I plan to have some classes and courses next year on grid work and like teaching you how to kind of step into your gifts and stuff. I'm not very great at computer tech stuff, so it's taking me a little bit longer, but I'm trying. And I will also have our home gridding course. I plan to have that done soon so that we can probably do that hopefully in January. So those are still things that I haven't forgotten about, but I just think that we have a very sacred connection to Mother Gaia, to Mother Terra, and to Tiamat. And connecting with the water and connecting with the older ways, like the more ancient ways, but like connecting with the earth in a holistic way, or, like, hey, I'm just coming to love you in the way that I would love myself, or in the way that I would love a child, is very wholesome. And I think that's, a lot of what the rainbow prophecies, say is that we're bringing stuff in and we're creating from the old ways, but we're creating them in a new way. So it's listening, to nature and listening to all of these things, but it's also, because your heart won't ever really lead you astray.
Beautifully said. I can hear Libby also has something to add to this. That's her dog, you could hear.
Yes. Yes. Sweet Levy. Yeah, she's in here with me. So.
Oh. So, one person had a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody wanted to know, where is it? Nyla had a question. How do you know if you are a grid worker?
It took me a while to figure out. It's a knowing. It's like it's a calling deep within inside. It's hard to explain. People just kind of know. It's like a calling from your heart. Like when you open up your heart and you just feel a sacred connection with Mother Terra in a different way, because not everybody is a grid worker, but everyone can help and work with the grid. But it's like a knowing in your cells.
Yes.
And so if you, I would just ask that if you are curious, if you are a grid worker, go touch your hands on the earth or go stand on the earth and ask her to tell you. Because that's really one of the ways that I found out, is I would, kind of gaslight myself, and I'd be like, well, I think I'm doing all this cool stuff, but I don't really know if I'm doing it. And then one morning I got pulled down into the center of earth, into a very, very pretty grove. And I was like, oh, where am I? And I had Mother Tara kind of come to me, and she is like, okay, you are a grid worker. You hold these rainbow codes that are unique to me. You help me more than you realize. And she was like, it's time for you to start to step into that power. Kind of in the same way, that you got pulled out of body. I felt like I just got pulled into the body. And she was like, hey, you're here. And this is what you're supposed to do. And so I'm going to help guide you and give you little tidbits and paths, but I also am going to connect with you and ask for your help in certain ways and forms. And so, I would just say it is an innate knowing that you are a grid worker, but you need to start talking to Mother Terra, talking to Earth in the way that you know how. And that way is a little different for everybody.
Yes. And even if you don't feel that you have a direct connection to the grid, you may be doing grid work without even being aware of it. Because many of us, especially in regards to doing clearings, we are doing grid work because we are clearing ley line areas and certain places that are like for example, certain churches. Whenever we clear a church, we've noticed that they are very strategically placed. They didn't just choose a random location to put the church. In fact, we've often found, especially a Catholic church, those are the ones even more so. They're always on the grid. They're always on some kind of a ley line or even a node, which is an intersecting point where two ley lines meet. So the reason they do that is because they're sabotaging the grid. They want to, anchor low frequency into those points. And then not only that, but when they have their churches are in a way kind of designed to be like a battery where all of this energy is being churned up in that space and sent to a certain focal point. And that focal point could be the person who's standing at the altar, which is very often the case, where all of that energy is going straight to the priest. You also notice that sometimes it's due to tunnel systems underground that are built on top. So the church is there and there's a whole network. I asked the guides, we literally found it yesterday or the day before. And I said to the guides, we found one in a church near California or somewhere in California. And I said, what does it look like under the church? And you know what they showed me? They showed me an ant farm.
Yeah. Yep.
I was like, holy shit. An ant farm. That's, if you think about it, what an ant farm is. I mean, you have one point where they come out, where the entities are coming out, but then they go underground and they've got this whole network of air tunnel systems that they move through. And there's all kinds of things that they do in those tunnel systems that's very dark and very heavy. And all of that energy is accumulating in that space. So when we go in to clear a church, we're not just finding earthbounds in the church. We're not just finding a few entities. We're finding a whole, it's like a bowl of spaghetti of cords and chaos and all kinds of weird energies. And the whole grid has been sabotaged. And it's like, when you look at the grid, kind of like the mycelium network. That's how I see it as. It is.
Well,
it's
yes.
a mycelium network. And when you have something that's poisoning the network from one of those locations, it spreads the poison throughout the network. And they know this.
Yes. Well, and that's how ley lines work. They intersect. And so if you go to, I believe it's leylines.net, you can look at all of the different ley lines and figure out, kind of where they are and how they intercept. But it is a mycelium network. They all connect together. And they make up a very unique grid. And so there are like pulse points or some people even that chakras, but there are energetic centers that are there and close. And basically what they do is they'll kind of tap in and kind of try and hijack that.
Yeah.
So, and there are grid workers I know that are not fully aware that they're grid workers that are
just living in
they're
that
stuck. They're stuck. They're like, okay, I'm stuck in this area. I don't know why I'm stuck here. You're really there just to hold in the light.
Yes.
Yes.
So some people are grid workers, but don't even know it, who are literally like a grid guardian. You are guarding that spot. And they're spread out in a network. We have to be. It's kind of like a golden web. Or like if you look at the flower of life in a way, it's kind of spread out in a certain pattern. And every single one of those little nodes and intersections needs to have somebody who is high frequency that is helping to anchor that light. I told you she wanted to come on and say hi to everybody.
I do. You're good, mamas.
Aw, hello, sweet girl. She's just guarding mommy. She says, "Mommy is the guardian, and I'm guarding mommy."
Yes, this is my little ride or die.
No.
Yes. Well, and I think the cool thing about the ley lines and the mycelium network and how that all works is our human bodies are designed in a similar way. So our fascia is our connective tissue. And I feel like that is how our soul talks to our body and how we react. Like when you're dehydrated, if you have some fascial restrictions, like restrictions in a ley line or the grid, you can, like if you're, say, you had an injury in your shoulder, and, every time it gets cold or the barometric pressure changes or something like that, your shoulder hurts. And that's a fascial restriction. It's the same thing with Mother Terra's, ley line grid. There are certain things where she can't push and pull her energy out and do what she needs to do because there's so much stuck in a certain area and it pulls. And that's the same for our fascia. Our connective tissue connects everything together. So you can have something going on in your foot that affects your low back, and, or something going on in your heart that affects, like your knee. And it's truly unique and amazing how that all works. And I just think, that correlates a lot with what we're doing. We're healing and upgrading our fascia and our connective tissue at the same time that we're healing Mother Terra's fascia, and so like I consider her fascia like the grid, and so I just think that's really cool and unique. The more we heal, the more she heals.
And it's funny because I've been, for those who don't know, I backpacked for over 15 years. I was pretty much a nomad, just wandering around from location to location. And I didn't understand that part of the reason why, and the guides explained this to me later on, because I was like, why did I go to this place? Why did I want to go there? And they were like, you were needed there. Your frequency was needed. And I was like, wow, okay, that's no pressure then. You're needed in the space and you're just literally, yoinked to that space. And sometimes it's not a very good feeling space. Sometimes it kind of sucks to be there. But if it weren't for you being there, that place would be so much darker. So you are holding the light. It's like holding a candle in a very dark room. And eventually more people do start bringing light into that space. You're not the only one after a while holding that space, but you do start to notice that after a while, people will be drawn to these areas because of the healing that is required. And some of this too isn't just about healing the space, but also healing yourself from that space. Because we can be drawn to places that trauma has occurred in past lives. Or places that we have been that we had a very strong connection to. And when we go back to those places, we collect soul fragments. We heal other versions of ourselves that are still energetically held within that space.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, no. And I mean, where I live, we moved into this home in 2021, and the coolest thing about it is I would meditate and I would just, we'd drive by this house and it was for sale, and I'm like, that'd be really cool to live there. Like I feel like I need to live there, and it was a weird feeling, but I was like, maybe we'll get this house, and it ended up, working out, and we got the house. And since I've worked the grid here and cleared a lot, in my local area, I'm here because my office is about 30-40 minute drive away, but I had to be firmly located in two different areas. And so, and ironically enough, I am on a very potent ley line, like my physical address is like right in the middle of a ley line that I need to be in. And I didn't even realize it. Okay.
So when you were brought to these areas, how can you tell that you're in one of those sacred places, or that, you're in an area that needs your light? You can kind of feel it.
You can. Yeah. And I will say, like, little stuff happens. Like this has happened to me most of my life, and just in the past couple years I've kind of figured out why. But like I'll go into like a restaurant and it'll be dead, there'll be no one in there, and then by the time I'm done eating it's like full. I'm like, what is going on?
NPCs.
But it's also you're carrying the light, and by you being bright and shining, you're awakening other people just by merely existing. So
Oh, I
people,
love
yeah. And so one of the things that I figured out is I'm kind of an amplifier. So I amplify other people's feelings and emotions. So sometimes I have to go into darker places and cleanse that area just by being there. And I didn't understand that for a long time because, when people don't want to change and you come in with this bright light and you're like, hey, I love you. Some people are like, no,
that.
back away, get away from me, and it can cause some really crazy things to happen, but it's one of those things. Yeah. I'll go into a place like and sometimes I'm called to go into like little restaurants and I'm like, I don't really eat this food, but here I am.
When you find
And
out there's 10 earthbounds in there that all needed to be
yeah,
closed.
we clear it. And then it's like, like the owner will come out and they'll be like, you're our first customer today. We think we may have to close. And, but then like, so I just bring in the light, I call it in. And I was like, if this is supposed to stay open, if, cause you can tell when people cook from their heart, and some of those mom and pop shops, because there's so many chains out there, they suffer. And so, one of the things that I like to do is, go support them, but also just bring in the light and say, if they're meant to be on a different path, then it'll happen, that the restaurant will close. But if they're meant to be doing this and serving, soul food in that area and helping people by being fed and being loved, and because when you love your food and you eat it, it's so much different than you just kind of eating like you're a machine.
Honestly,
And so you go in.
people who put love into their food, you notice it. You can tell.
Oh yeah, you can feel it. You can definitely feel it. And so those are the places that I like to go into. And I'm like, okay, we're just going to amplify this. And and then everyone starts coming in. And like even Jordan, my fiance, has noticed it. And there have been a few times where he's like, okay, why are there so many people in here now? I'm like, I don't know, babe. We're bringing in the light, but it is something, that happens quite a lot is when you love yourself and when you start to ignite that light, you shine, you don't burn. And when you shine, people see you and people see the real you. And sometimes they're there to see you so that they can get triggered into their own awakening. And that's not always nice. Sometimes backfire can happen or people get mean or rude or ugly.
Some of my best upgrades that I have received came through a trigger. Because when you triggered, you are being encouraged to heal. And when you recognize it, especially when you have your emotions coming out, like somebody the other day, they were watching something that we were discussing and they were like, I don't know why, but all of these tears started flowing. And I don't know why. I don't know what's happening. And this happened to me as well. I was chatting with Zach the other day and Zach said something about what happens to your consciousness. It's a long story. I'll go into it another time. But he said something about how your sense of self kind of dissolves into your whole being, your higher self sort of thing, and you basically become part of the whole. And something about that, when my ego heard that, I lost it. Something happened. I don't know what happened. Like literally the waterworks. Like I don't even know what I was feeling. I had no reason. Like I had no reason for my emotions to be, coming out of nowhere. But it was like somebody opened the tap. And I just started bawling my eyes out. And I'm like trying to type my report and like stay focused on the work. And while my ego is flipping out in the back of my mind, going, what do you mean? Dissolve. What do you mean that there's not going to be a Lar Star forever? You mean I'm not going to remember being me as I mixed lifetimes? And they're like, you don't need to remember being you. But I'm like, but I want to remember. Like,
yeah. And that's when the ego comes in. And our ego's here to protect us. And so sometimes we have to put it in the back seat and tell it to shut up. And that's harder said than done. I will fully
Actually
attest to that.
understand it, and now I have a better understanding of what the ego is and who I am and how that evolves into being a new version of myself at some point. So that led me to understand myself better, but at the same time, it caused like a panic attack, like an existential crisis.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had like a midlife crisis in the middle of doing a clearing.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing you know how to breathe and you use your breathing techniques to calm down.
Like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah.
I'm just shaking it out, you know.
But the human
Yeah, and it
ego
was
really struggles with this stuff sometimes. Like
well,
we
it
we
does,
don't
yeah.
even understand what it means to be human, let alone to be a spark of consciousness from source that's bouncing from vessel to vessel. Like it complicates things. So there's all kinds of things that you learn about yourself when you're going through your spiritual awakening, and it leads you down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole to a deeper and deeper understanding of yourself. But every once in a while, when you hit bottom of that rabbit hole, you're just like doof. Like holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. Well, and that's when the shadow's surrounding you. And so that's where I think your integral values come in and who you are. And, you know, you kind of have to pull yourself up by your britches and go, okay, enough is enough. I've got to pull myself out of this shadow. And sometimes that's where SRT comes in. Because if you have entities or other things attached, you know, it's like a monkey on your back and it's just shoving you deeper and deeper and deeper. And for a lot of our clients, you know, some people don't always feel a big result, but then you have some people that are like, you got that monkey off their back and they were able to heal. Hey, Levy.
Libby's like, I'm the star of the show today. We love animals around here. We don't mind. She can do her thing. But the funny, you know, yesterday, for example, we had a client that booked a clearing for somebody in a rehab. And I'm sure you can imagine what we found when we went to clear this person that was in the rehab. We had to clear the entire rehab. Otherwise, it would have been pointless to clear just the young man that was in there because of how bad it was. And as you were mentioning the monkeys on the back, you would not believe. Well, first of all, he had tons of earthbounds who were addicts attached to him. The entire area was filled with earthbounds who were addicts, who were literally like goading people into relapsing.
Yeah.
And then you have all the entities who are also, you know what the entities were doing? They were cycling people's trauma over and over and over again. So people are like, oh my God, I have PTSD and I can't stop seeing the trauma in my head. No, you have a fucking asshole demonic that's on you or some stupid reptilian that is literally reading your mind and replaying the trauma over and over and over and over and over and over and over. So you will relapse. Yeah. I mean, you're going to a place for healing. You're going there with the intention of changing your life and becoming a better version of yourself and shedding all those old things that no longer serve you. And you go into a place like that and they literally jump on you. Like, it's like a cuddle puddle with beasties.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I mean, like literally, it's like a scrum in rugby where they just on top of you the whole time. That is more than a monkey. To me, I mean, that is next level. That is like having Godzilla on your back. It's like, gorilla, exactly, on your back. How are you supposed to get clean from something like that? You go into a place. Some people are spending thousands and thousands of dollars a month to go to those places. And instead of getting healing, you're getting assaulted in the astral. You're getting psychic attacked the whole time you're in there. I'm sorry, but it pisses me off. I'm still upset about it. I'm like, how fucking dare they go into a place where you're supposed to be healed and then have them badger you and beat you down and make you feel worse? Like, so honestly, I can't think of anything in this entire world that I would rather be doing than what we're doing right now.
Yeah, no, I agree, you know, because we don't always have to, people don't always have to know what's happening, you know, like some people don't understand this work and that's 100% okay. But if we can help you feel better to the point that you can start to work on your own shadow, or, you know, like you don't wake up feeling depressed all the time, or you don't have all of these crappy thoughts running through your head, and you can put some tools in your tool belt to, you know, kind of reset the nervous system per se, you know, because the longer that some of this stuff goes on, the more your nervous system kind of roots into that. And that's where your self-work and your self-care comes in, is just kind of telling the nervous system, no, we're not going back down that old track. I don't want to go down that old track anymore. Or even realizing, oh, hey, my thoughts are kind of spiraling right now. Let me go meditate or let me go ground and see
Let me
what I can
question
do
where
to
these
get,
intrusive thoughts are coming from.
yes.
Is
Yeah.
that coming from love? Is that thought that just came in my head to go and use again? Is that coming from love? No, it's not.
No.
If it's not coming from love, it's not coming from your higher self. It's not even coming from your ego, because your ego is there as self-preservation. Your ego wants you to be safe. That's why your ego is created in the first place. It's kind of your little defense mechanism in the back of your mind going, like it's got to tell you good things, bad things. It gives you help in a way to help you understand things. So your ego is not going to tell you you're a piece of shit. It's not going to tell you you're worthless. That is not your ego. And constantly people are saying, like, why would I say that to myself? You're not. You're not saying that to yourself. You've got an earthbound or an entity or a thought form that is creating that.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that. They don't realize that the thoughts in their head are not them. So
yeah. And,
beat themselves up.
We also have collective thoughts, so like if you're tapped into the collective energy, which a lot of people are, and like you watch a lot of news, you feed into, like the fear side of things, you're going to be tapped into the collective energy a little bit more. And when you're tapped into that collective energy, you're going to feel the fear behind that. So if everyone starts freaking out about something and you're going, well, I'm sitting here freaking out and I don't know why, it's probably because you're connected to that, all of everybody else's energy. You have a collective cord, and we go in there and we clear those, and it's such a unique way, to do it.
Brittany says here in the comments, they used to mess with my dreams trying to offer me drugs. I've had people message me and say, look, I've been clean for a year, and last night I had a dream that I was using again. Can you please check me? And they'll book an emergency clearing and we'll go in. And that's exactly what the entities are doing. They're putting thoughts in their head. One person messaged me so upset. They're like, I'm so scared. They were terrified that they were going to use again because they had that dream. And sure enough, what do we find? We find a demonic who was using their trauma against them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that also comes into, we were socially conditioned at such small children. I mean, I can only speak for living in America because this is where I've lived, my whole life. But the social conditioning for both males and females is really, it's to beat you down, to take away your power, to make you, a meek shell of yourself. And so sometimes it's hard to stand up for yourself. And so when you have a lot of those thoughts going,
especially if you have a witch wounds make it a lot harder, right, Carolyn?
yeah. And so, when those are instigated, it's there's a lot that plays into factors. So I will say, if you do have a lot of freak out moments, or if, you're trying to change, my recommendation is always to start with breath work or grounding. Those are two easy things that you can do.
Going out in nature helps to relieve stress and release cortisol. That is what many of the guides are saying. If you've been dealing with trauma, spend time outside.
Yeah.
Listen to the birds, the wind, be out in the grass and the dirt, all of that, connecting to Gaia. That is how you release trauma from the body.
Yeah. And a little bit of just science based on that, because I know some people like to know, well, why do we feel better when we're out in nature? It's kind of an oxymoron, but we have what's called negative ions out in nature. The sun gives us negative ions. Our body is supposed to be negatively charged. And so when we are more negatively charged, meaning we are connected with the earth, we feel better naturally. Our body can flow better, our energy can flow better, so our chi can flow better, but we can also take better care of our bodies.
Yes.
And so, like if you're disabled or you can't always get out, in
plants in the house, or you bring flowers and plants in the house.
Mm-hmm. Yes. They have grounding mats and grounding sheets that are very beneficial because that connects you into the frequency of earth. So, there's lots of things that you can do.
Oh, sea salt bath just popped into my head. Sea salt is good for grounding, especially if you've been dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety. Sea salt baths are amazing. Add a big, huge scoop of sea salt to your bath. Siddhartha swears by coffee. He also says if you add coffee to your bath, it will help. Coffee is very grounding and high vibrational at the same time. So it helps to uplift while also connecting you.
Yes, and I feel like coffee is a good protectant as well.
Yes.
It strengthens your aura um, in a different way than salt does.
Yeah.
And I feel like some people, if you're getting psychically attacked, from that sense, or you feel like you are, a coffee bath would be beneficial for you
And if
because
you
it
don't have a bath,
strengthens the
yeah,
aura.
you can also make a scrub. I actually have a
Mhm.
scrub that I love. I mix it up and I take coconut oil, sea salt, coffee granules, like straight up
Mhm.
just ground coffee, and then I can add some essential oils. I added like vetiver, vanilla, and a few other things. I get out of the shower smelling like a latte every morning, but I feel amazing. Like I don't even need to drink coffee, and I feel more awake. I just scrub
Yeah.
down with that paste and my whole body feels fresh and wide awake. And I realized
Mhm.
like, oh shit, this is working even with just the granules.
Yeah. 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 No, it is. And, coffee's pretty, there are, everything's kind of sacred in its own way. But I think, like if you're drinking coffee every morning and you're not putting intentions into it or anything like that, it's just something you do. But if
I
you're
love,
kind of making a ceremony out of it, and going, "Oh, I'm going
I
to
hope
give
you
my
don't
body
mind me
this
saying
coffee."
this, but Kat and I, whenever we hang out in person, even with Mr. Bradley, we partake. We enjoy partaking a little bit of the herbs. And it's funny that whenever I'm about to pack one, Kat's like, give it to me first. And I'm like, okay. And she takes the nug and she'll put it in her hand and she'll encode it first. And I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. So you can actually bless even your cannabis beforehand. Like, how
Mhm.
exciting. And so I've been doing that now. Kat's got me blessing my herbs now. Before
Yeah,
it
yeah, no,
works though. You have to set your intention with everything that you consume. So you can even Reiki your goodies.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I do it. I try and be intentional with as much as I can throughout my day because that keeps you in the present moment. And when you're in the present moment, it's easier to stay sovereign.
Yeah.
When you're thinking about stuff from the past or stuff from the future, or like freaking out about something that's not even coming up yet, it's one of those things. Your ego takes over. It's easy to get into that fight or flight. But if you're living in the moment, and bringing presence to what you're doing in that moment is important. And I think a lot of us have lost sight of that.
Yes, we
Yeah.
have. Well, the day-to-day stuff is a lot. There's a lot when it comes to psychic protection and spiritual hygiene. I had one client message me and they're like, "Do you expect me to spend my whole day doing this?" They're like, if I were to do all of this every day, it would take me an hour a day. And I'm like, "You're gonna stay sovereign though. Is it worth
Yeah.
it?" I
Yeah.
think it's worth it. If you might spend an hour a day grounding in total, not just the entire day, you're not just spending the whole day doing these things, but to ground yourself, to do your morning psychic protection, to cut your cords, to cleanse your space, to anchor yourself and ground yourself, that takes 30 minutes in the morning. That doesn't take that long. And then in the evening, to call back your own energy, to cut cords again, to cleanse yourself after a busy day and to do your night rituals takes another 30 minutes. It's not that hard to keep
Yeah.
up with it. It just, you need to be consistent and you need to allow yourself to not be too distracted by other things because it can be very easy to burn out if you're not doing psychic protection. So if you skip it
Yeah.
on days where you're like, I have too much going on, I'm too busy, you actually end up burning out faster if you don't make time for it because you're giving too much energy away. You're losing energy throughout the entire day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, it's important to start small and then work your way up. If the whole protocol is way too overwhelming for you, start with grounding and then put a bubble around you. See how that works, and then check in with that bubble a couple times a day to see, and call your protective bubble back in. And that's a good way to start, and then once that's comfortable and that's in your routine, you can add in all the other stuff if it's too overwhelming, and because that creates a good habit. It takes 7 days to create a bad habit and it takes 21 days to create a good one. So I will say, start with something. And one thing that's always worked for me is I set a timer,
Yes.
for the same time every day, and that timer goes off and the timer says you need to ground, or you need to do, you need to do this, you need to do this. For a long time I had one that just went off, like every 20, 30 minutes, that just said drink more water.
Yeah,
You
drinking
know?
water is really important. That's one of the biggest things that the guides are always going on about. They're like, tell her she needs to drink water. Her brain looks like a dried walnut. You know how many times people's guides have told us that in the aftercare every single day? None of you are drinking enough water. None of you. And
Yeah.
most of you aren't taking enough magnesium and B12 either, just for the record. All the things they're always saying. Nobody drinks enough water, nobody takes enough magnesium, and nobody takes enough B12. So that's across the board for almost every human we come across.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say if water's hard for you to drink, put fruit in it. Put limes, put lemons.
Whatever.
You could one thing that I really like in the summer is I'll do like peach, mint, and lime. And so I'll cut up a whole peach, I'll cut up a whole lime, and then I'll put some mint sprigs in it, and then I put it in the fridge. I let it cool for overnight, and then I drink it throughout the rest of the day.
And
So
then
it
bless
gives
it,
you,
Reiki it before you drink it.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Reiki everything. Everything you
Yes.
put on or in your body, Reikiing it first does wonders.
Yeah, and I have this super cool thing. I got it several years ago. I'll see if I can find the company, and if I can, I'll let y'all know. But it's a Tesla plate. It's this purple plate, and I stick all my groceries on it, so that I'm improving the quality of what we're eating. Because when you shop at a grocery store, I do have a big garden, and I do like to, get stuff from my garden. But we're in the winter months, coming into the winter, and I don't have a lot in my garden right now. So, when you shop, that's one of the good ways that I can do that. And I saw that
Okay,
someone,
colors. Yep. Make sure you get enough color in your diet. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, the rainbow colors, they're important. So
Uh,
yeah, eat the colors of the rainbow. And that's how you can heal some of your chakras too. If you're working on like healing your root chakra and healing the shadow and, stuff like that, eating red foods is one of the most beneficial things for you because you're drawing in that color naturally and you're brightening that chakra.
Beautiful.
Hmm.
So before we head off, Kat, I just wanted to explain, Kat does some work online and she does some work in person. So if you're in West Texas, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
if you're in West Texas, you can contact Kat and make a plan to go and see Kat in person. She has a studio she works out of, or she does energy work.
Hmm.
Which is very cool. But she also does a lot of online work, a lot of coaching and mentoring as well. And you also do private sessions. Do you want to explain a little bit about your sessions and how they work?
Yeah. So my favorite session is my quantum multidimensional healing session. And the healing is a little bit of a common misconception because when we tap into your quantum field, I can pretty much clear, and work with whatever you're wanting to. So I normally go in and I'll ask you a set of questions, what are you trying to heal from? Or do you have something that's looping in your field? Is there some, do you have an addiction that you're trying to get rid of and stuff like that? The sky's the limit, really. I've worked on so many different things. We can clear past life trauma. We can clear, trauma from your childhood where you're, codependent and attached to someone. And then I always call on your higher self and I allow, at the end of each session, you have your own set of soul codes, I like to call them. And these soul codes are unique to you and what you're doing and what you're expressing and what you're here for. And so, like I said, at the end of every session, after we've done whatever it is that we're doing, I will call on your higher self and we'll bring in this very golden light.
Oh, glitches in the matrix. We didn't lose her, I hope. Can you guys still hear me? Hello? Oh,
So,
we're back. Marlon, can you clear the stage?
yes. Come on, Marilyn. Clear the tech, please.
We're back now. That's good. Sorry.
But yeah, no. So we basically dive into you and make more of you by allowing you to be seen and heard by your soul. And we clear, a lot of old programming, a lot of loops, timelines. The sky's the limit. Like I said, everyone is different. So you're going to need something different. Sometimes I will call in, specific frequencies to help heal. I work through the whole body. One of my clients that I had earlier this week, we worked on her liver. She had a bunch of scar tissue on her liver from a huge tumor that she had. And I saw within that tumor, scar tissue, that it just needed to be manipulated and pulled out a little bit so that she could start to express herself in a healthy way, And I've had one client who was having weird eye issues. She was going to the eye doctor, and she was actually getting stem cells put into her eye. And at the end of one of our sessions, she mentioned, she's like, "Hey, Kat, can you check my eye actually?" And I was like, "Yeah, what's going on with it?" And she was like, "Well, I have 20/20 vision, but I'm going like peripherally blind in my eye all of a sudden, and I can't figure out why." And so I looked through, her eye, and I literally pulled like a plank of wood out of her eye. And
Was that a
that's
resonance?
it was a past life resonance where she got stabbed. And it was something, she got stabbed, and so that bled through into this lifetime. So, I quickly called in, her book, her Akashic records, and we worked through, clearing that bleed through, and it was just affecting her left eye. And she went to the eye doctor,
They
like
can't
a
find
couple
anything
days
wrong with
later.
you when this
No.
happens. Yeah, when the
And
resonance.
so she went to the eye doctor, and she was like, she called me crying, and she was like, "I'm completely healed. I don't have to go back. I don't have to." And she's like, "I can see perfectly fine."
Wow, that's amazing.
So yeah, I mean, and it's, it's,
I can testament to this as well because we call it psychic surgery. If you guys are looking at my website and the things that we do, that this is another name for it, is called psychic surgery. And I had somebody do psychic surgery on me because I had terrible fibroids. It's a long story. I won't go too much into detail, but 2 years ago, I thought I was going to die. I thought I was literally going to bleed to death. I didn't stop bleeding for 6 months. And there were points where it was absolutely terrifying. And there was a point where I contacted one of my medium friends who does psychic surgery. And I said, I don't know. I can't even go to a grocery store. I can't do anything. It's debilitating. Like I'm literally just feel like I'm going to die if this keeps up. And he did 2 psychic surgery healings on me. And he explained that it was from a witch wound. That my witch wound trauma led to womb trauma because of the amount of times that I was violated while I was in prison. And that created massive, massive trauma to my subconscious and to that feminine region of my body because of how badly I was abused, to put it lightly. So that trauma created the fibroids, that created those issues in my womb. And so my doctors told me I was going to have surgery. They even told me that I would have to have a hysterectomy to have it stop. And they told me that's the only option. They talked about cauterization and all these horrific things, and I was terrified. So like I said, I contacted my friend just sobbing, saying, I don't know what I'm going to do. And he said, we're going to work on you. We're going to do some healing on you. And he did 2 healing sessions on me, and my fibroids are now gone. It stopped. Everything stopped.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. I thought I was going to have surgery. I thought all these things. The doctors told me that was my only option. And after 2 healing sessions, it went away.
Yep.
And I was like, holy shit, how is this possible? And they said, we're healing the trauma that led to it. And if you can heal the trauma and go back and heal it, then you can actually bring healing into now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they said it was more than just my own trauma. I literally watched someone else I love get burned. And that creates layers and layers of trauma. So it's not just your trauma. You're healing other layers and other versions, like familial trauma. In fact, they said it was so heavy that it affected every woman in my bloodline. It wasn't just me that had the fibroids, because this was part of our familial bloodline as well. So my DNA, my genetics held the trauma too. So they didn't just have to clear the soul memory. They had to clear the genetic memory from my own bloodline. And I was like, holy shit, this is intense. There's so much going on. And you know what's crazy? My mom has fibroids. My sister and my grandmother, going back. We all have fibroids. It's all from that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And that's the really, really cool thing about the multidimensional healing is I go through all the dimensions. And so if you're stuck somewhere in a dimension and you don't realize it, I just clear it. because our bodies are multidimensional just as much as our soul is. And that's part of the change that we're going through that a lot of people don't understand or realize, what's going on. And that can cause a little bit of a freak out, because if you're starting to awaken and open your gifts, but you're not grounding, or if you're too grounded, and, like, as my grandmother used to say, you got to pull my head out of my ass. But, like, if you're too, if you're too out of it, then, that creates a dis-ease, and it starts as a dis-ease in your aura, and then eventually it can come into the physical body. And that's where I think the medical system is very lacking, because they don't take the mental body, the emotional body, or the spiritual body into consideration. If you're grieving and going through a big heartbreak, and you're going in going, well, I'm getting heart palpitations, or I hurt here, or my back, like the left side of my shoulder is killing me. My ribs are bothering me every time I breathe. And they're like, oh, okay, here's some muscle spasm, here's some muscle relaxers, here's this, here's that. They're just going to throw a bunch of pills at you and tell you,
Well, we go in and we find a level 1, like biting on the shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, we find all this stuff.
In somebody's shoulder, like giddying up, like holding on to the cords, like this level 1 was digging claws into this person's shoulder, trying to hold on tight. And they're like giddying up. They're like, come on, human, move it. We clear it from the person, and they're like, oh my God, my back feels amazing. I don't know what's happened. I feel so much better. It's like, well, you don't have a level 1, like a little gremlin fucker digging its claws into your back anymore.
Yeah. And sometimes as children, if you traveled a lot and you have and I've done this once or twice before as well, we tailor the session specifically to you and what you have going on, so I always ask a couple of questions, like, is there anything you'd like me to know before the session so that we can start to work on it? So if you do have a lot of women issues and stuff like that, and you're feeling called to go to a session with me, we can do womb work. And then, because the womb sacredly connects to our heart, it connects to our throat, and it connects to our pineal gland in just a different way. And so we can increase those connections so that you can listen to your body and know, okay, well, maybe I need more of this, or maybe I need more of that. We can channel your higher self and figure out what your physical body needs so that you're getting the help that you need. Yes. And so that's kind of where it comes in, is like these sessions, they're kind of hard to describe because they're so unique. Because everyone's quantum field is different. And it's unique because you came here to do something different than I did. Like if I were to look in Laura's field, it'd be different than my field, because she's not here to, protect the rainbow grid in the way that I am. So she's not going to have the same types of things that I do.
I don't know. We both got Metatron suits now.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. But that suit's going to look a little unique to you. And that's the coolest thing about it, is we all came here to be unique and different. And that's part of, like where we are going, is, celebrating our differences and starting to co-create and create through that difference.
Oh, beautifully said. There's Kat's link, KatherineIrwin.com.
Yes.
And I'm also going to drop your Facebook page if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. I do have a couple of specials that I'm running through December. I posted them Friday. I will do another post soon just with all of those links. So if you're interested in doing anything like that. But yeah, so.
One final question from the lovely Nyla, who also asked a great question earlier. Any message you would like to give to adapt to the new energies and the 5D shifts? Any message today about the new energies, the 5D shifts, and anything coming through?
There are several. So I would say one of the biggest things is to listen to your body. We have a lot of new light codes coming in. We had a very large solar flare that hit over the weekend that we're still feeling the effects of. And spiritual discernment comes into that too. Knowing what's right for you and knowing what you can handle. So, one of the biggest things for me is I get on and I wake up in the morning and I do my spiritual protection, and then I connect in with my higher self and I ask her, is there anything that I can be doing to stay on my highest timeline today? Whether that be resting or drinking more water or going to a specific place, and then just utilizing that. And then, but listening to your body. A lot of us don't listen to our bodies. If someone just said I had an intense migraine for 4 days, I hope you're feeling better, but I also hope that you stayed home and rested for those 4 days, because if you went to work, or
we're not going to integrate
decided that
energy coming through so easily.
Yeah. And that's a sign to your body that something's not right and you may need to rest, or you need to hydrate more.
You need to ground, you need to hydrate, you need to rest. Absolutely. Yes. Those 3 need to be checked, especially if you've got headaches.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't go away after 4 days, you might need a clearing.
Yeah. And I will say some of these new light codes, they're here to stay. And so they're changing our structure. And so feeling different in our body, is going to be something that a lot of us are going to experience. Physical aches and pains as they're, coming out of the body. We see that as well. And so listening to your body and eating intuitively, I've always recommended that. But using the sway technique, using muscle testing to figure out, if your body actually needs something, is important. And I think that's something that a lot of us are learning how to do, is just to be more in tune with our body and asking it, well, what does it need? What do I need for nourishment? What do I need for fun? What do I need for my heart? What do I need to open up more? Or, what does my body need to work on this shadow? You can use it for pretty much anything. How does my body react to that? So case in point, say this is a supplement. You can hold it up to your body and you can ask yourself, do I need this? And you'll get a yes or a no.
With muscle testing, they were giving away these free organic vitamins in London last year. And I was like, free? And I held it up like that. And I was like, is this good for me? Should I have this? And I got knocked over. Literally, it was like, no. Because usually if I go forward, that's a yes. If I go backward, that's a no. I nearly fell on my ass. They were like, that was a hell no.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more you use that, the more intense it can get. And if you prefer a pendulum, you can always hold your pendulum up and say, pendulum, show me a yes. Okay, thank you.
Does this serve me to my highest good? Does this benefit me to my highest good?
Yeah. And I always ask the pendulum every time, if I'm using it, show me what yes means and show me what no means. So you have that definitive answer every time. And then I'll ask, is this for my highest and best good? Your higher self will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
It'll let you know.
Yep. If you don't ask, you don't get. Same with everything. Same with your guides, your higher self, everything. You have to ask. So ask intelligently. That's the trick in all of this, is asking intelligently, asking the right questions, and asking for the right help at the right time.
Yeah.
And the more specific you are, the better. Because if you just say, can you save me right now? They'll be like, how? What do you want? You have to be specific. I need somebody that's going to show up and pick me up and help me get out of this mess. And they're like, all right, well, what kind of person do you want to come and help you? How do you like to get out of this mess? The more specific you are, the more they can help you. Because if you're not asking the right way, they're not going to be able, they're just going to be like,
yeah, for sure. Yes, you can use a necklace as a pendulum.
Yes, you can. You can use anything as a pendulum. A penny on a string is a pendulum if you need it to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
So I will say, if you want your pendulum to be more powerful, that you actually go and get one and you connect with the crystal, and you just tell the crystal that with the sacred intention, what I do with any pendulum that I have is I just hold it in my hands and I put it against my heart. And I just ask that my heart connects to my higher self, and that my higher self always gives me the answer that I need, even if it's not the answer that I want to hear or see.
That's the trick right there.
And that's it. That's it, is because you are setting that firm intention. And then I always like to set my crystals out in the sun. And so I set my firm intention and then I put it out in morning sun for a couple of hours. If it's amethyst, it goes out for like, or some of the other crystals that can, be dampened by the sunlight. I'll stick it out there for about 5 minutes. It doesn't need too
Kenneth
much
said he
time.
used his arm as a pendulum. Well done, Kenneth. Yes, you can use your body as a pendulum. That's what we call muscle testing. Yes.
Yeah.
Muscle
And that's where the
testing is
sway
great.
techniques comes in, is you ask yourself, body, show me what yes means. And whether you're standing or sitting, yes will be most of the time forward or backwards. When I've taught a couple clients, sometimes they'll lean to the left for yes, or they'll lean to the right. Or some people like swirl forward, or they'll
I
move
think using
forward
the
like
body
that.
works better than a pendulum. Just saying. I've used both a pendulum and muscle testing, and muscle testing is more accurate than a pendulum.
Yeah. And I think, but if you're not fully 100% comfortable in what your body's telling you, then use a pendulum, like use what works for you and build that connection up with your body. And then it starts to come in a lot easier and a lot faster. And then when you listen to your body, you can go, oh yeah, do I need that? No, I don't. Okay. Yeah, that's good. And so you're intuitively helping yourself.
Yes.
I
This
think
has
that's
been a really
important.
fun conversation today. Thank you. I love hanging out
Yes.
with Kat. So
Love
for
hanging
those
out
of
with
you
y'all
who are
too.
joining SRT too, you'll be hanging out with Kat a lot too, because Kat is going to be she's just a huge part of our academy. She helps us with a lot of the training and a lot of the one-on-one stuff. She helps with student sessions, and she also helps with lost soul rescues and so much. So we're just so grateful to have you as part of our academy, Kat. We love you so much.
I love
And
you too. I
you
love the
guys,
whole academy.
I know it's going to be so much fun having new students coming in, right? We've got
Yes.
35 people signed up.
Oh, yes. That's very
Yeah,
exciting.
right? Not to
Yay.
mention all of our wonderful friends that will be coming in under the scholarships as well that we're offering. So we have a lot of new students that will be joining our more seasoned senior students and our certified facilitators and mediums. So
Yeah.
our academy is growing very, very quickly, and it's just wonderful to have all of you guys joining us and helping us with this work, because we're up to our nose right now. I got 220 pending bookings right now, Kat. Can you imagine? I'm like drowning in work right now. We need all the help we can get in SRT right now. So we are
Definitely.
launching our SRT website. We're going to have Astara SRT very soon. So you guys will be able to even work with Kat. If you become a certified facilitator, you'll even be able to do sessions and clearings with Kat. So we encourage you guys to join our academy and to help us, because we are work cut out for us. Don't we have a whole planet to clear?
Yeah. Yeah. Because we were clearing it in a unique way.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about the scholarship a little bit for those who don't know?
For those who don't know, we are offering scholarships to people who write us a very detailed essay as to who you are and why you want to do this work. And just to help us get to know you and your mission here. I don't believe that finances should ever be a barrier to a life purpose, but we did give some scholarships last time, and there was a couple people who didn't even do anything with it. So I want to make sure that those of you who are really coming in, who feel this is a vocation for you, like it is for us, we are very flexible and happy to accommodate for that. But we are asking that people take this very seriously and to understand that this is a career. This is a profession that we are training you for. So, I mean, it takes a lot of effort and time and love and dedication and patience, not just for you, but us for training you.
Yeah.
So, we put a lot of time and effort into training our students. We put hundreds of hours into training people. So that is why we charge what we charge, but also because we love this work. We want people who are really dedicated to it. So if we can see your dedication, we will, we are happy to accommodate for that. But we need to hear it. We need to make sure that you guys are going to take this seriously, because this job is very serious. You're on the front lines of a holy war, so to speak.
Yeah.
So this is no joke.
We need warriors. We need you to have, a tougher skin, because there's stuff that we see that can be very shattering to your psyche.
Yep.
And so a lot of, times we make jokes, and the guides are really good at joking to keep our vibrations high, because some of the stuff that we see it can be traumatic.
If you don't laugh about it, you'd lose your mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
You would.
you know, Bradley's the king of the dad jokes.
Right? Sometimes all we can do is laugh at the situation. We're like, this is so fucked up that all we can do is laugh at it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So, Shay says 111 watching. We've actually had 170 people watching this almost this whole time, Kat. Can you believe it? Between Facebook and YouTube,
gosh.
we had 170 people watching today. So how exciting that
That is very exciting.
We're growing very quickly right now. I love it.
Yes.
So thank you to everybody who joined our conversation today. It's been really fun.
Yes. Thank you. Oh, Claire, if you're doing lone SRT, I would say, you know, if you're interested, just reach out to one of us and we'll see if you're a good fit for coming in. And if you need to take any certifications with us, we're a little firm, you know, on making sure that you're following a specific protocol. But we'd love to have you.
I am actually giving scholarships to people that are already trained in other modalities. So if you have learned from the SRA, if you have taken Katie's course, if you have taken others and you are certified in another SRT modality and you want to join under our banner, contact us. We will make it happen. Because I know there's a lot of other people that have been taking training with other people, and that does not exclude us from working with you. We are happy to have people join.
We'd love to have you. Yeah. But we just want to make sure.
Yes, guess who's summing up? Casca, my wonderful friend Casca.
Really?
Is joining SRT2. Ferris is joining SRT2 as well.
Oh, so my stars. That's so amazing.
I know, they see the work that we're doing and they say, how can I get involved? How can I help? And I say, please, the door is wide open. Come on in. We need all the help we can get. We need more mediums too. We have 7 currently. We have 7 certified SRT mediums in our academy, but our doors are wide open for more. We need all the help we can get, especially, you know, it's funny. The guides the other day, I had 50 bookings overnight. And I went into a mild panic. I said, holy shit, what am I going to do with 50 bookings overnight? I can do 20 bookings in one day if I'm doubling my sessions, just to give you a perspective as to how long these cases take and how long we're background. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I was like 50 bookings overnight. And they said, you need to get SRT. You need to get your Astara clearing website up immediately because soon you're going to add a 0 to that. You can get 500 bookings overnight if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Because they've taken off like this buffer zone of like, that's why we've doubled. We've had double the amount of people commenting and liking posts and joining the podcast. And I said to the guys, what's happening? Where are all these people coming from? And they said, we're sending you more people. Get ready. Yeah. I was like, holy shit. Okay. So no, just to put it into perspective, we need all the help we can get. We are very, very blessed when it comes to work. So we are very happy to share those blessings with other people and to just get prepared because the universe, the earth needs this work. This work is going to get huge. The guides have already said this is going to be major growth happening because people all over the world, just think about what we cleared from the rehab yesterday. That work, I mean, is essential in healing people and helping us to clean out all the riffraff in the astral. So
yeah, for sure.
We're excited to have you guys join us.
Yes. JR, so if you do get the scholarship after you go through the course and you get certified and all that, you can work with us through the Astara website, or you can kind of go off on your own. It's
up to you. If you want to make friends and do it. Some of our students have decided to go off and do their own thing. Some have decided to create their own teams, their own little squads, so to speak. And that is what we're encouraging. You know how we talk about us being like the Avengers? We jokingly call ourselves the Avengers. You guys can create your own Avengers squad. You get to create your own little groups. That's what we're kind of pushing people to do, is to create their own groups to do good things. And even though we like Katie's group, for example, has her own squad. She has her own group of people that's doing good things. So we're just kind of, you know, if you don't resonate with what we're doing it and how we're doing it, there's other people that you might resonate with that are doing it in their own way.
Definitely.
So we're all kind of dotted around the world doing our work in the way that we feel it's best. So this is why we're so flexible and open to people coming in from other modalities, because collaboration is what keeps us safe. It keeps us strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Working together. Building our astral army.
Yeah. Yes.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to drop Kat's link one more time for everybody. If you would like a session with Kat, please make sure that you do contact her because she is an amazing healer. I will drop this on both Facebook and YouTube. And I am so excited to see you guys in class on Friday. For those of you who are signed up for SRT too.
Yes. And I will say, if you're not signed up, and we will be offering it 3, possibly 4 times again next year, correct?
Well, we do it every 6 months.
Okay, every 6 months. Okay.
So it takes about 6 months for us to really have because like it takes time to get everybody confident, to make sure that people are staying sovereign, and then to get the mediums ready for certification. And we just recently certified 3 new mediums for our academy, which is very exciting. So that's why we've got 7 now. And we've got a couple more who are almost ready to go, who are almost ready for their own certification. Yep. So even if you're not ready right now, there is no rush. We're going to be doing this work for the rest of our fucking lives, aren't we, Kat?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I even, we're going to try and start traveling to offer some of this as well. So it's coming soon. Coming soon.
Comment, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I actually am distantly related to Steve Irwin.
Yes, we even crossed over Steve Irwin, didn't we? We crossed over Steve Irwin together.
Yes, we did. Steve
was stuck in the water still, and we helped him to cross over. And then we crossed him over with his mom, too. That was really beautiful.
Yeah, it was. And I think it was a combo of both. He was just kind of floating there waiting. It wasn't like he was stuck.
He was kind of like, where am I? What is this? What's happening?
Yeah.
He didn't really understand where he was or what was going on.
Yeah. And that's, ironically enough, because I have such a connection and always have with Steve Irwin, just in watching his show as a child, that was one of the things that I loved to do. That was, one of the things that would help me decompress really is watching his nature show and all the cool things that he would do.
You remember he told us we could call him in too now for
animal clearings. For animal clearings and stuff. Yes. I'm very excited about that because he just loved animals in a very, unique way. And that's why, my Andromedan guide, that's why his name is Steve. And he asked.
We figured that out that day. We're like wondering why he chose the name Steve of all the things. And then the day we crossed over Steve Irwin, it clicked. We're like, he picked the name Steve because of your last name.
Yeah.
And he had a big grin on his face, like, it took you long enough to figure it out.
He's like, come on, Kat. But yeah, just having that, soul connection. Our guides are funny and unique like that, and so his name really isn't Steve. It's probably some form of an energetic signature, a frequency tone or something like that our human brain cannot comprehend. So they give us, names that we can understand.
It was funny. Yesterday, I asked somebody, I'm like, can you give me a name? And they're like, Bob. And I'm like, you want me to tell the client that her guide's name is Bob? And they're like, yeah. I was like, all right, put it in there. And then the client messaged me back and she's like, that actually checks. That checks. And I was like, okay, well, at least it resonates with you. Because I was like, you really want me to tell her your name is Bob? And he's like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because Bob probably meant something very unique and specific to that person. And so, they'll get into your, life in that way, and they want to be connected to you because they love you just as much as your higher self does, and they're here to help. So, yeah.
Oh, I love that so much. RJ said, is there an SRT1 at your own pace online? Yes. The prerequisite for SRT2, which is the certification portion, is that you also watch SRT1 and the psychic protection course. Psychic protection course and SRT1 are available as recordings on my website. So if you would like to catch up, you have time. We are not starting class until Friday. So if you would like to, it's still not too late. You can still sign up for the psychic protection. You can still get SRT1 in the recording, and then you can watch that. You have a couple days to be ready for SRT2, which starts Friday. I will be starting the podcast at 9 a.m., an hour early on Friday because class starts at 10 a.m.
Yep. Yeah.
So we got a lot to discuss. It's going to be really fun. I can't wait.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Kat. I love you so much. Thank you for everything today. It's been a fun chat.
Thank you. Yes, it's been very fun.
You joined us. It's always a pleasure seeing you guys. And thank you for being so interactive with us and asking questions. We love hanging out with you guys.
Yes, I love each and every one of you. Thank you for showing up.
We will see you all tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Bye.